Hey y'all, it's Joanna Leaves and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about all of the plant supplies that I believe I need to keep my collection thriving. All right, so I want to put out a disclaimer. The things that I believe I need might not be the things that you believe you need. But I just wanted to share all of the things I think I need in around 7 different categories that allow my collection to thrive. Also, for more context and another disclaimer, I have a large plant collection. So I think that this specifically applies to people that have large plant collections versus people who might have a few houseplants. So I will say that this is more so applicable to people who are deep in the hobby as like collectors versus deep in the hobby as like, I love these 3 plants in my house. So with that disclaimer out the window, I actually sat down and made a list of the things that I believe that I needed. Before I did that though, I thought about the different categories that I wanted to address in terms of supplies or items that are necessary for each. There are 7 different categories, so the video will be split into the 7 different sections. So I'm gonna start off with soil and potting mixes. So I could probably say this just off the top of my head. I wrote it down, but really and truly, I think that if you have a large plant collection, I don't think buying like a pre-made mix for each thing is going to be the most cost effective down the road, and then B, like the easiest to maintain, because transparently, different plants require different quantities of the things that you use to pot them up, right? So I know sometimes that could be annoying, but for example, I couldn't pot my begonias into Molly's aeroid mix because their roots are very fine and they would not have a great time with the like number of things that create a very chunky, fast drying mix. I would also be having a bad time. So what I recommend typically for people is that you have like the components of a mix. On its base, if I had to only wind it down to like 3 things, I would say you need some kind of core, some kind of bark or cocoa chip, and then some kind of perlite. For someone of my size, I have 8 different things that I think are requirements for me that would allow me to get through propagating, potting up, etc., all of that good stuff, but also allow me to create a multitude of different mixes. The first thing that I think I need are those bricks of cocoa coir. First of all, those bricks go a very long way. Let me keep it a beam with you. Those bricks go far and wide. I have done a significant amount of repotting in this year alone, and I have not had to repurchase cocoa coir bricks. I think actually I've hydrated at this current point, I've hydrated 3 bricks, but the first brick, I hydrated 1 and it lasted me for months and months and months. I just decided to hydrate 2 this last time, but I have a literal bin full of cocoa coir in this closet behind me actually. And I was still able to pot up a whole bunch of different plants and it's a lot going on. I really and truly will say that when it comes to the cocoa coir, I feel like that is the most cost-effective like thing to pot into. I know some people don't necessarily love coir because something about, you know, how it be leaching nutrients from the plants, etc. I think that if you have the proper fertilizing routine, you'll be fine. I've seen no effects on my Hoyas, and transparently, I didn't even know you were supposed to buffer coir when I first started using it for my Hoyas, and my Hoyas are growing fine in the mix that has the same unbuffered cocoa, unbuffered chips. I did start buffering it once I learned, and I don't even think I've been buffering it properly because I didn't rinse it after I buffered it. No issues there. That might cause issues with the anthurium, so I'm not gonna tell you to do that, but I'm telling you, for me so far, no issues, everything's been good. In the realm of cocoa chips are sensational. If you are growing things that require like chunky mixes, both cocoa chips and cocoa coir are very inexpensive, and throwing cocoa chips into cocoa coir will help it to have that chunky element. For me, supplies that make my life easier. I have only recently started using this, but I do think that you need tree fern fiber. I do think tree fern is clutch when it comes to the anthurium, but also I have learned recently that it's clutch when it comes to the alocasias. You feel me? My scalprum is doing fantastically in a tree fern mix right now. The first scalprum I had, at this point, at this many weeks of owning it, would have already been completely yellowed around all of the rims. New leaves would be coming out very small, but this one has recently put out a new leaf that still is on size, like still like a size mate of the leaves that I got it with. and there's only minor yellowing, and now I've put it into a self-watering setup. Not the voice just escaped me, but I put it into a self-watering setup, and it is doing so much better. I've also found that my anthurium do very well in the tree fern mix. The 2 seedlings that I got, even though my Paplux looks ugly, the roots took off in a tree fern mix. All of my other anthurium take off in a tree fern mix. I do think that it is, I don't know what's up with it, but for the anthurium, if you collect anthurium, I do think that's another substrate that you would likely need, a component. You need perlite. I would recommend having the large, the chunky perlite, and then the regular perlite. You could use the 2 to offset and whatnot, but the small perlite, it can double as both like an amendment, but also as a propagation medium. So that's why I think that you need that. Also, the large perlite will help with adding aeration. So if you just have cocoa coir, chunky perlite, small perlite, and cocoa chips, you would be able to plant your plants. You will be fine. You can stop there. You don't even need to do the tree fern. For me, I'm doing the tree fern. I'm doing both sides of the perlite. I'm doing the cocoa coir. I'm doing the, you know what I mean? And then also, I would recommend adding in bark. So I use, I think, I honestly and truly, I don't necessarily have like a preference yet for bark. Certain things I refuse to cash out on. And I just use the bark that costs the least. And when it comes, as long as it, like, you could get it from Soil Sunrise, or you could get it from like Better Grow. The Better Grow bark, sometimes they just give you long sticks. So I do actually will say, between the 2, Soil Sunrise and Better Grow, they're both inexpensive. And I really like the bark from Soil Sunrise, but I'm sure you can get bark in bulk from a pet store, etc. That's also inexpensive. So, you know, do with that what you may, but using bark can very much so help with like making your mix chunky. And I find that bark is much more useful for me in my anthurium, so I don't have to use as much like cocoa products, because I know they be saying I use the cocoa to kind of stretch things out a little bit, but cocoa products probably make up less than 20% of my mix. I will also recommend that you get horticultural charcoal. 1, it helps you stretch out your mix. Are you not trying to be economical? Yes, you are. 2, it also helps reduce like smells and like certain growths within your substrate. I sometimes will sprinkle like a layer of charcoal on the top of the the cocoa coir, to keep like any fungus growth or mold growth, etc. at bay. Love that. And like it can help prevent smells. I know people that literally put a layer of charcoal on the top of their plants. I ain't tried that yet, but maybe I will one day. So far, so good with the charcoal. And then the final thing that I think you need in terms of like soil or potting mixes, sphagnum moss. It's not necessarily a potting mix for me per se, but I use it for my poles. I will be using it for collars for anthurium. You can also use it to propagate. And additionally, some plants can be, like, people can plant their plants directly into moss and perlite mixes. So that's another thing that I would recommend as well for things that like moisture. But also, if you're a girl like me that has poles, get the moss. All right, so let's get into the next section. Fertilizers and nutrients. Okay. When I first got into plants, probably similar to most of y'all, I was just listening to what other people were saying. So I was just trying everything. I had the Miracle Grow. They were saying Miracle Grow's trash. I had this. They were saying I was trash. So I tried a few things. I will say that this is the one section where I'm just going to say transparently, you just need some kind of NPK fertilizer that is balanced. Now, I'm going to recommend GT Foliage Focus because I've been using it, and because it comes in a size that is, honestly, the fertilizer has been lasting me for so long. I fertilize weekly. I flush when I remember, and my plants are doing fantastically. You know what I'm saying? I do think that you probably sub it out for, is it the Dynagrow Foliage Pro Super Thrive, the Super Thrive Dynagrow? That one, you could probably substitute for that, but really you just need like an all-in-one fertilizer. Another nutrient I recommend is CalMag. I'm not even saying CalMag to water, but literally because I use it to buffer, my cocoa products. So when I'm hydrating the bricks of coir and the bricks of cocoa husk, I literally just use CalMag water to rehydrate it. I know that people are saying to rinse it. I didn't know that until recently. I don't rinse it, and I'm not about to go, oh my God, not a fly. I'm probably not about to go and rinse off all of that. It just feels like, it feels excessive, transparently, to me to be doing all of that. But that said, I use a weak dilution. Is it a weak dilution? No, the regular dilution of like CalMag water. I pour that over and I use that in addition to regular water to hydrate it. So if I use 1 bucket of CalMag water, I use 1 bucket of regular water, and then I just let it hydrate with that. It soaks it up, plant it up. If that causes me trouble down the line, I will let y'all know. But for now, I just know that I need that to buffer it, because the people said that, you know, the stuff be leaching the nutrients and something. So that's what we're doing there. Additionally, now, because I have Anthurium, I do actually use CalMag in my watering routine. I live in New York. My water is moderately hard. I will not be getting the test strips as of right now because I'm not there yet. That said, I do use the CalMag once a month in my watering can to water my Anthurium. If that water is left over and I have other plants I want to water, I throw it in there if I feel frisky. But for the most part, because I live in New York, I think my plants are fine. And because of the fertilizer I use, it does typically have calcium and magnesium. So I think that they're absolutely fine. Okay, and then finally, the next nutrient-ish thing I would recommend is Myco. So I got into Myco because of the Anthurium, and I have been using Myco to water in like freshly potted up Anthurium, but then I extended that to just use it in all of my repots. And transparently, I think it could be a placebo effect. I could just be seeing things I want to see. But she's doing her big one. Like, I think the Myco really does a little, add a little something for the course. And it does, I think, increase like root development specifically. And I think that's when I water the plants in with it. So I'm throwing that in. I'll probably water my plants maybe once or twice a month. No, not twice a month. Once every month or every other month with the Myco water, or as I remember. I don't know how often people are using it in their watering can, but I'm thinking once a month is enough for me. Probably with the CalMag, like it'll be a CalMag Myco kind of watering. So next, let's talk organization. Yo, honestly and truly, when you get to having this many plants, you do need to be organized. As a person who lives in New York City, I understand that space comes at a premium. Everybody does not have an excess amount of space. That said, I'm going to name that I do have, like I said, this is my plant closet that we sit in front of. Everybody does not have a plant closet. So you do need things to keep yourself a little bit organized so that all of your stuff is not all over the place and it's overwhelming you. So I recommend bins. Bins. Hear me out. Before we even get to the bins, actually, start with a dedicated area. Is that going to be underneath a bed? Is that going to be 1 bin at the bottom of a closet, or 2 bins in a closet? Or do you know what I'm saying? A little corner. You're going to get a little rolling cart in the corner. Whatever you're going to do, figure out a way that you're going to organize the things you need for your plants. Once you got that area, a dedicated area, whether it be a closet, a corner, under the bed, etc., then you're gonna need bins. If you're going with under the bed, then get bins that are the size that you can slide them in and out from underneath a bed or something like that. If you're gonna have a closet, I recommend having a multitude, like multiple sizes of bins. So right now for me, I have large bins that I keep like a lot of materials. I store them based off of like frequency of use so that they're easily accessible and organized and tightly sealed in the closet behind me. But then also I'll have, so the large bins will hold things like a lot of things, pots. Think like I got a bin for my pots, I got a bin for substrates, I got a bin, you know, stuff like that. Then I recommend having like smaller shoebox size bins. The reason I recommend the shoebox size bins is because you can store a small amount of substrates outside of like your plant closet in your dedicated plant corner, like I have, right? That will make it easier to access and quickly put together like mixes. Or if you're similar to me, instead of storing just like the components in those small bins, you can literally put together 3 shoebox size. Let me actually show you what I mean. So this bin has plants in it currently, right? But I would use a bin of this size right here. And I actually, in that bin, would have like a begonia mix or like let's not even say it specifically for a plant. I would have one that is a dense mix, right? So probably like 50-50 core, like 1 part cocoa coir to 1 part perlite, and then sprinkling in some horticultural charcoal and a twips of bark. So very dense mix. I'd have one that's like that. Then I'd have one that's like a base for my aeroids, right? and then I might have one that's like a tree fern mix. So those are 3 different mixes that I would have. I then can utilize those mixes to amend. So if I want something in between an aroid mix and a begonia mix, I'll just take a scoop of each. That makes it easier when it comes time to repotting and to keeping your plants healthy, so that you don't have to actually go in and be like, oh, now I gotta mix up just enough substrate for the, no. Instead, having those small size bins already with like pre-made like densities, I feel like really helps. At least it helps me. Hopefully it helps y'all. Hopefully y'all feel me out there, but it really does help me. I also think that a large bin is very helpful for rehydrating stuff like cocoa coir. You could literally hydrate 2 or 3 bricks at a time, 4 bricks, and then keep it in a large bin. Good to go, probably for months upon months upon months. So yeah, I also want to add, like with the bins, I do think that that is also very helpful with keeping bugs out of your substrates. I keep even anything that's open is gonna go into a bin. I am afraid of bugs. I do not want to pour stuff out and then boom, bug. I'll panic. I will panic, you know what I'm saying? So because of that, the bins really do help me to keep my peace of mind, and they do keep my substrate essentially like pest free, or not even just pests, but like, child, it could be spiders in there, you know, centipedes. I don't know. I don't want those in there. So keeping bins keeps bugs out of them. All right. The next section I wanted to talk about is watering. Watering is, this one is like the shortest section. Essentially, I just think you need a watering can. I love my watering can. I got it from IKEA. It's not nearby, so I might insert a picture. I love my watering can. I recommend a watering can that you feel comfortable with. Go to the store, think about how you water. I chose this one because I wanted a spout that would allow me to direct the water exactly. That's what that one does. Next, I would recommend something like a jug, like a large 5-gallon watering jug. So you could get the little, what I have is actually the 5-gallon Poland Springy bottle that you get, and I'm reusing that. I fill that up with water, and then I use that 5-gallon water on my watering days. You can actually get this tool, which I also recommend, which is like a pump, an electric pump that pours the water out. I utilize that, I put that in the center of my room, and I go back to that, fill my can, water plants. You can also drag it around. Some people also have, I've also seen some people using like this thing that you could add. It's like a hose, like a shower hose thing that you just put it into the bucket and then it sprays stuff around. You can also get something like that. Because I already have the watering can and I have things, I'm cool so for now, but that pump sprayer thing can probably, the water sprayer can be very helpful. I prefer this method versus like the backpack method because I'm not that strong. Yo, them backpack things get heavy, bruh, and I don't want to be walking around with that filling it up. Also, I don't water in place. I water a lot of my plants over buckets. Most of my plants are in drainage, so the water needs to drain off. I would then have to be walking around with the backpack that's heavy, carrying the heavy bucket of water. It's So the next section I have is tools and accessories. So I think that my number one tool in my house, number one for my plants, is my soldering iron. I can't believe I forgot to put that on in the first video that I did. But a soldering iron will take you from, it will take your plant game from like, all right, we cool, to above and beyond. And a soldering iron be like $9, $10 max. That thing changed the game for me. I did not have to keep trying to look for small size pots and paying all this money. I literally buy a pack of 50 or 100 cups for $8. I can propagate with them. I can use them to start small plants in or slightly rooted Hoyas in. You could use it for a lot of things. If you get deli cups or whatever and you have a soldering iron, you could just add some holes in that joint with the soldering iron. Boom. And now you could use the little deli containers or whatever to grow your plants in. A soldering iron will literally take any plastic vessel that you like and turn it into a plant pot. And that's what I love her for. So we need a soldering iron. The next thing that we need are clear pots. People don't have to agree, but I think that in this era that I'm in and in the new stage and just in general, I can't see why a clear pot, why people would be so averse to it. Cover it up if you need to. Don't cover it if you don't want to. But clear pots are so clutch. There are so many things that I've caught early because my plants are in clear vessels. So I'm able to see what's going on with the roots every time I water my plants. Every single time without fail. There is no plant I have that I am unable to see the roots of unless it is in a pot that in, like a nursery pot that it came in. But when it get repotted in my house, I'm gonna be able to see what's going on with you. I cannot hold you. A clear pot is gonna save the day, especially as a new plant parent. It will save the day. You will be able to always see what's going on with the roots. And a lot of times things are going downhill with your plants, and more than likely, if it's not pests, it's the roots. Do you know what I'm saying? You'll always be able to see. There's also pests that can live in the soil. You'll be able to see like what's going on down there. I live by the clear pot way. I am not going to be a girl that comes out and says, not necessary. I love a clear pot. Love it, love it, love it. 10 out of 10 recommend it. You don't have to buy expensive ones. You can get deli cups or containers for like the low. You can get plastic cups. I mean, I literally have a multitude of my plants, plastic, planted into small plastic cups that I use my soldering iron to make holes in. You don't have to make it very complicated, but what it does do for me is bring a peace of mind. So for your girl's healthy, thriving collection, you absolutely need clear pots. The next thing I think you need tools and accessories wise is like measurement tools. So I have both if you have I had a food scale and I use that. I took one. I have two basically, but I took one and made it my plant scale so I can weigh up the large amount of my fertilizer so that I don't have to over fertilize. And then I also have a dropper so that I can measure like a smaller amount. If I'm gonna pour it into my watering can, I can put the 1 ml and then 1 liter of water. I like to be a little precise. If you're not that precise, good on you. If it's not hurting your plants, do you. But for me, I think that the dropper to measure like about 5 milliliters of liquid fertilizer, as well as a scale for you to be able to pour into like a cup size. Like I have a small cup and I'll pour, make sure my 50 mils of fertilizer can go into my 5 gallons. So I do that. And I recommend having tools that will allow you to measure your fertilizer accurately just to prevent fertilizer burn. The next thing that I recommend is like the little squeeze bottle. I'm gonna put, at this point, if I haven't been doing it, that's crazy. I'm pretty sure I have, but let me put the picture up. This bottle right here will really change the game, save your life time and again when you're propagating. It is a lot easier to water perlite propagations with this little squeeze bottle. It is a lot easier also for me with my Hoyas. If I think that they look a little bit dry, they just need a little touch of something so they don't fully dry out and crisp up before I come through and give them the good watering, squeeze bottle. It is just, I just feel like I don't know what I would be without that, especially as someone who does a ton of propagating regularly. I love this little squeeze bottle. A person that has a lot of 3-inch pots, I love this little squeeze bottle. That is the only thing that I will utilize to water in place because one, I can control, it's giving you such a small amount of water that you can control just how much you're putting in there versus like a sprayer where I feel like even one spray could be a little too much versus that tiny stream. I love the squeeze bottle. Also, you can use it as I do. I use it to water, like put water over stuck leaves sometimes to give them like that space to pop out, you know? The next thing I think people need is like a pump sprayer. And I use this pump sprayer for my, I'm gonna put a picture, the little pump sprayer thing for any kind of like preventative like spray, right? So I use that for my homemade pesticide spray. I think that without that, I would need too many spray bottles and doing, and also because when you pump it, you can just literally keep it on continuous spray and keep going from plant to plant, which is what I do every few weeks. I know I mentioned the clear pots, but I also want to circle back and say clear plastic cups, deli cups, etc. Just doubling down on that because I have that on my list. I forgot about the plastic cups before. Even if you're not gonna solder holes, those can be so the clear small plastic cups can be so helpful for propagation purposes. It can be helpful. You can reuse them too as well, which is what I do. They are fantastic. Next thing I would recommend, a tool, is like the Zevo plugins, right? If you have plants potted in soil, it is very unlikely that you're gonna have 0 fungus gnats. I find that these keep the adults at bay. I know that adults are being born regularly, and I do need to remember to soak the mosquito dunks or the mosquito bits or whatever. But so that I'm not seeing 65,000 million flies everywhere, I have these plugs everywhere. I, in fact, will be getting more. I want these plugs in every single room, because my first year in plants, that literally was what saved me from what was going on. I was starting to get a little infestation. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Got the plugs, adults was dead. I know you do have to kill the babies too, but I got the plugs, the adults was dead. And I did think I did one watering with the mosquito bits. That's essentially what I'm planning to do. When I remember, hopefully next week, I'm gonna water with the mosquito bits, but have the plugs. And I'm telling you, go on, done, simple. Finally, I also recommend like a bucket dedicated to like catching water if you're watering plants and you like to drain them off. That can be helpful, especially if you do not want to bring all of your plants to a location for the water to drain off. You can literally just walk around with the bucket, which is what I do. I got the 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. I walk around with that joint. Told you, 5-gallon water, 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. Also, you do not end up with a bucket filled with 5 gallons of water, because the plant soil should be soaking up some of the water. Now, let's talk pest prevention. Pest prevention. Y'all know I do not do the bugs. No. Your girl don't do the bugs. So this is an important category for me. Disclaimer, if you are looking for natural remedies only, I apologize, friends. I don't only have that. I will start with them though. As a preventative, I am regularly spraying my plants. And when I say regular, I mean like every 2-3 weeks. I spray my plants with a homemade mix using a tea tree Castile soap, a peppermint Castile soap, alcohol, peroxide, neem oil. Boom. I put that in there with some water. I shakes it up. I spray it around. That's what I use the pump sprayer for. And I spray her around, spray her down, get it going. Those are the things that I think you need for the homemade one. If you are regularly spraying with that and also rinsing your leaves regularly, you can do that. For the girls that don't have the ability or the capacity, or are just like me and cannot rinse all of the 100+ plants I have all the time, in terms of like bringing them all to the shower, that would literally take me an entire day. Because I can't do that, I sprays them every few weeks. But also, if I get an inkling, if I see a little something, what I do is I pulls out the Captain Jack's spinosad and I hit that for my like spider mite situations, right? If I feel a little what's going on there, I hit them with that. Now, I will say that for the most part, you could get rid of your, what is this little white thing? You could get rid of spider mites for the most part by rinsing your plant off. Well, at least that's how I feel. Like, I don't think that I always have had to go to the spinosad for the spider mites. But I will say, if it's on a plant that I really care about and I don't want it to get big and bad, I'm gonna spray it, absolutely. Now, another thing is, the spinosad does not work on all the mites. So then I also use the, is it Safer's, I have the Safer's, I think it's the garden fungicide or whatever, and it has sulfur in it. I spray plants with that as well. Now, I will be honest with you. You do got to be mindful when you're using any sulfur spray. Think about the last time you used the oil-based spray. So if you're using like the Bonide Mite X or anything like that, those literally have oils in it. So you want to be careful. I'm saying this from experience. Do not spray the two at the same time, or you will be like me, wiping off leaves to ensure that burn does not happen. And that was a lot of work. I did have to do that. It was a lot of work. I almost burnt the plants up. But just be mindful of the last time you used an oil-based spray and give it at least like a month between the use of the two. If you think a plant might have flat mites, keep away the oil-based sprays. So for example, with my Hoyas, if I am feeling nervous, I just go in with a round of the Safer spray, and that's my plan moving forward versus using the preventative spray thing. I will just go in with the Safers, and I will remove the neem oil from the mix that I use on Hoyas moving forward, just so that there is no burn if I do gotta do a sulfur treatment, you know? The final thing that I recommend is systemic granules. I know it's big and bad and scary to people, but honestly and truly, it's either me or the Millie Bugs at this point. I cannot do that. I plant inside. I would not recommend using them outside. That's why they don't even recommend doing that. You need to do it inside of potted plants that are away from, what are they called? Pollinators. Keep them away from the pollinators. Also, if you follow proper protocol in terms of disposing of the water, which is what the bucket is for, you will ensure that you are not harming the pollinators. So I water my plants into a bucket. The water is able to sit for about 2 or 3 days. It only needs 3 hours, by the way. I'm giving it days. and then pour it out somewhere. You could pour it down your drain. I don't feel that great about it. I pour it on the asphalt and I move on with my life. Now, here is the final section. In this final section, we're gonna talk about light. Let's talk about light. You know what I mean? You need light. You need good light for your plants. So if you live in a place like myself, where if I turn off all the lights right now, it would be very dark. It is regularly, like, it's not very bright in my attic, and my plants are all growing in my attic. It's also not very bright in all areas of my home. And even if it is, the area that the window is in, I cannot just have plants in. So I recommend grow lights. And actually, let's rewind. Before we get to the grow lights, if you are not going to have grow lights, I do recommend a light meter. I used to be a girl that was like, I ain't getting no light meter. What you need a light meter for? What you need a light meter for? I got a light meter, and I will tell you, game changing. There are windows that I thought my plants were getting it good. They are not getting it good at all. And that's why they were not doing well, is because they were not getting it good. It doesn't matter if you think that it's a south-facing window, you still want to make sure you're testing how much light is actually making it into the plant. There are also areas that I realized I could utilize more, right? And then additionally, you get to test the strength of your grow lights, which is clutch, key, very useful. So get you a light meter. They're inexpensive. I have one, and now I'm able to tell like just how far my plants can be from the grow light versus not. And honestly, you would think you could set your grow light mad far away. You cannot. You cannot. I mean, you cannot. But the one thing I did learn with the light meters, them Sansi lights is not playing. They did not come to play with you. They are dead serious. Like, they're bright as hell. But yes, the next thing, lights wise, right? So let's talk grow lights. I think that Barina and Sansi are the two brands I would recommend. Them Barina T5s and T10s and T8s and the bars, chef's kiss, fantastic. I love the Barina T5s, one, because the lights aren't super bright and you can grow a multitude of plants under it if you like manage the distance. The 5-watt little bars, I love them. I love them. For me, plants have grown under them. I tested it with the light meter. It's reading that it's getting light from underneath there. I have plants that are growing consistently. My anthurium are growing in acrobar cabinets with the Barina lights on top, and they're doing fantastically. They don't want for nothing. They cool, they happy, so I'm happy. My propagation bins, lit up by Barina. I actually messed up my lights on my grow shelves that were the miscellaneous lights and had to replace the lights because I shorted them. That was wild. But now they are Barina lights. Love that for me. Now, the Sansi grow lights, I recommend those bulbs. I don't want to say that you need to get like the little 3-arm thing, because I have one of those and I have like the clip-on ones. I don't think you have to get that, because I do think some people also have like aesthetic preferences, right? Which you should, right? Like, you want your house to look the way you want it to look. So if you're a person like that, then you can get the Sansi bulbs and put them into like fixtures. I have one of the light that's shining directly on my Monstera right now. It's in a actual lamp, and then the Sansi bulb is plugged into it, so it doesn't have to look too clinical like when I'm looking at it. Those bulbs are sensational, and they have a range of wattage, okay? And I'm keeping it a beam with you. The 10-watt Sansi bulb is providing my some of my philodendron with about like 1,800 to 2,000 lux of light, that's good. And they about 2 or 3 feet away, and I tested it with the light meter. So with that being said, I do recommend those Sansi lights, whether it be the bulbs or whether you get the little stands. They are strong, they are inexpensive, and they are lasting. And then the final thing related to lights or anything techie with plant care, specifically with lights, get smart plugs. I was going around turning on all these grow lights every day. I got smart plugs, and now I just MYOB. I could leave my house. I'm not scared when I leave my house that, oh my God, I gotta remind the man to turn on. I gotta make sure I turn it off before I go. Oh my gosh, I gotta turn my light. Nope. It's just set. It's on a timer. They come on, they come off. And that is really what we love to see. Okay, y'all, thanks so much for stopping in and listening to me talk about all of the plant supplies that I believe help my collection to thrive. If I missed anything that y'all would recommend, please don't hesitate to leave a comment and let me know about it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You feel me? Let me know how you felt about the video. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree, disagree, etc.? Let's chat. You know what I'm saying? I like a conversation. And with that being said, I hope to see y'all in the next video. I will be talking about my favorites coming up because October is coming to an end, which is wild. Oh my God. But anywho, bye y'all.